All right, so the first week of DESA has passed right by, and we are still fully overbooked, and there's a lot of lessons that have to be learned. So I'm going to go through a little bit of what happened and what led to the launch, what happens after the launch, and whatever else that will really be learned as a form of lesson to be implemented for the next week, which is happening in a few days' time. So I think let's go a bit of a backtrack and understand a bit more on how I acquired all these vendors. And this is simply said, put it into three steps. So the first step is actually reaching out to your warm market. So when you reach out to your warm market, it is the most easiest and the most direct access to highly qualified people. That's one thing. And because they're warmer to you, it's a lot more easier to close the deal because they know you, you have relationship with them, and most of the time, whatever you offer has to be an existing problem on their end. So, context. My partner's sister-in-law actually approached us to say like, hey, can she use it for her brand launch because she's launching a new designs and everything. And I'm like, okay, cool, sure, perfectly fine. So from that point onwards, a little bit of brainstorming, and purely by coincidence, because we were walking over at Causeway Point, then we realized like, hey, you know what if we do booth, pop-up spaces, but in a booth setting, right? In a booth using booths. And what if we also provide the marketing aspect into it? Because food flow is very important, right? But by the same token, food flow has to be accompanied by the same conversion ratio for you to really make a sales. Um, and the easiest way for us to really market your pop-up space is actually by marketing it towards your own existing followers. So just by that fact alone, we sort of just went off on just a rough idea saying like, okay, our space, we have 5 slots per weekend, and we are totally open for you to do your pop-up launches and everything, but we open for 5 slots, and it's over the weekend. We will provide the tables and the clothes rack for you, right? That's all we have. We just have that as an idea, and I think moving forward, that's how it spread like wildfire, right? So from one person, they reached out to their networks, and from another person, they reached out to their networks, and that's how we conquered pretty much majority of the slots, all 25 slots. So that's the first way. Through warm outreaches, that's pretty much like the most direct way to close a deal, essentially. Even though it's free, even though it's totally free. I mean, it may contribute to the fact that it's free. However, we are located in an industrial building. So the fact that there's validation for a in for a pop-up space in an industrial building, I think there is some bit of uh, validation in that concept. Because one, it is already ongoing in other places, Woodlands as well. And two, it is validated by the people that we reached out to. In fact, we have more leads coming in saying like, hey, they'd be interested to set up one of the shops here, right? So there's that. Um, that's the easiest way to get validation. And this leads to the second point. So the second point is actually doing the content and making people aware of whatever you're offering. So whenever you make content, you are reaching out to a potentially infinite amount of people. So I think using the same language essentially by saying like, hey, I got this Ramadan theme pop-up space at my office, and I'm opening to 5 slots. It's totally free, but I need this criteria. So the criteria is it has to be a walking closet concept. It has to be a Malay or Muslim home-based business, and what's the other one? You need to have somewhat of a follower base across multiple social media platforms, because we want to test our marketing aspect that we could value add to the whole package, right? So with those criteria, content wise, we didn't really get any content because majority of the slots were fully booked just by the warm outreaches. Those are like WhatsApp messages, very very direct, and that's really my forte. I would say direct acquisition is truly my forte because I can really just on the move and on the ball, right? So I think this segues into the third step actually. So the third step is reaching out to cold markets. So when I say cold markets, I'm talking about places of relevancy to the offer that you're having. And since we are reaching out to vendors, right? We are reaching out to vendors, and through we need to really reach out to the relevant WhatsApp groups or Facebook groups where these vendors exist. So the Facebook group that we reached out to is actually the pop-up space Facebook group. And that is where I did my content, and that is where I gained about, as of now, I got a total of 8 leads, qualified leads, by the way, because we are conversing in the Facebook Messenger. And in terms of total overall, there was about 8. The reason why there's such a high gap of qualified to the overall is because I'm being super specific in the copy of the content. And just saying, okay, I need this, I need this, I need this. The place will be here. I only got 5 slots per week, and this is at weekend. And you also have to do your marketing, etc., etc. Because if I have to really make things clear, that it's at an industrial space, right? It's really at an industrial space. So marketing is very, very heavily reliant here. So by that token, um, we got a lot of leads and we filled up a lot more slots that way. So those are the 3 steps. Just to recap a bit, the 3 steps that I did to really overbook my whole entire Ramadan slots is firstly warm outreaches, so direct acquisition through WhatsApp contacts. That's one, and reaching out to relevant networks through the people you've already contacted. Step number 2 is doing content. So doing content, writing content to reach out to the people that you want to find to enter as vendors, to onboard them as vendors. And step number 3 is doing content in the relevant cold markets wherever the vendors are actually located in. So there's a strong relevancy factor that goes into the content. So the first week went by. That's one thing. The first week went by, and we obviously it's not perfect. It's totally not perfect. So one of the vendors actually has an amazing follower base, 12,000 followers, right? So with that, we were expecting like probably hundreds will be popping up when they're here. But truth be told, only like 10 of them showed up, but 100% of them bought something, right? And that's good. So that actually makes me aware of a few factors actually, because a few things really did happen. So the first thing is the importance of marketing. That's one. And second thing is the strength of the branding strength that you have to persuade people to take a certain action. So they did all the necessary things. They posted a poster, they did lives, they keep making content. However, only a low number of people showed up. And this really made me reflect a little bit more like, okay, what is your strength as a brand in order to impact those people, or in more specific terms, to persuade those people, aka your followers, to really take action to go for this event? Because by the same token, let's say you got 12,000 followers, right? You got 12,000 followers, and you did an open market pop-up space in an open space, right? But probably less than, actually, that's less than 10%. Wait, that's less than 1%. Less than 1% of your followers showed up, even if it's an open space. And this is a curated space. That's one thing. And they do not know what the space will be like, right? So those are the certain factors that really make me think like, okay, how can we value add to our vendors to make more people come into the space and buy more things from them, right? And obviously the very first thing is one, the strength of the branding. If your branding strength is very little, then it really you don't really have the capacity to persuade them. Second reflection actually is more of what I realized, like, we have agreed upon that you are given a dedicated space. We give you a space, right? And I don't really appreciate the fact that you are taking up not only other people's resources, but also the overall space in of itself. So it really made the whole place very, very packed. And those are things to consider first and foremost. Why? Because as eventually I'm just an event organizer here. I could just let it be and say like, okay, this is your space. We give you whatever you want and you can do whatever you want here. No, I totally don't want to be that kind of person. I want to be the one that really adds value to each of the vendors respectively, irregardless of how big of a brand they are, irregardless of if they have thousands of followers, or irregardless of if they are just starting out, right? What we want is a place of mutual respect. What we really want is a place of mutual respect where everyone is able to share the space and be understanding of the rules and regulations that are set in place here. So with that being said, we really have to look into factors that would really enforce certain cultures or certain systems and ways to operate the business in this place. Because I can't just say like, okay, and I just can't say yes, okay, you can just do this, okay, yes, you can just do this. It will just be hectic and it will be uncoordinated, it will be chaos. We totally do not want that. And in fact, that's how I intend to develop the whole process here, the whole operations here, moving forward to the next week. Because one thing is, okay, you have provided a space. I do not want you to exit the space. That's one thing. It's just out of mutual respect. It's just consideration towards other vendors who are also using the space, right? Second thing would be, it's just like, okay, when it comes to sharing, don't take the majority of the time, of the resources, because other people also have to use them, right? And it's kind of difficult. I mean, kind of a difficult position where I am, and it really made me reflect, like, how can I mediate these kind of situations, right? Because certain things happen, and sometimes I just feel like, Singaporeans like very paiseh for me to just say like, hey, you can't use this for more than 1 hour because it's not written in stone. It's just human nature. It's just out of consideration. If you can't respect that fact, then it really makes me question of whoever we're onboarding, right? So moving forward, again, that's how we intend to qualify future vendors. We won't qualify based on followers. However, we will qualify based on the characters. And these characters, I sort of have to find a way to really gauge them, either through a call or either through, looking at their socials. So a lot more considerations have to be put in place. And that actually transitions like, okay, instead of just being an open market kind of pop-up space, I'm going to change it and pivot it to say like, okay, this is a curated space. The reason why it's a curated space is because there's heavy qualifications involved. And I think reflecting back on whatever we've mentioned so far, the main criteria for being qualified as a vendor is firstly your branding. So your branding has to be very strong, regardless of if you have low follower base or if you have high follower base, whether you just started or you've been decades in the business. We do have vendors who are decades in the business, right? Then that's the first criteria. Second criteria would be the awareness of how marketing plays a part in certain places, regardless if it's an open space or a closed door kind of space, right? If you are able to communicate that marketing is super important for these kind of events, then we want those kind of vendors on board with us because they understand the long game rather than the short game. That's two. The third one would actually be just who will be manning the booths, and if they are respectable to other people, if they're considerate to other people, if they are a good character overall, we totally want them in. And it can be hard to gauge, like I said earlier, but hopefully, inshallah, we will try to find a way to really cater to those people that really needs it. And yeah, I think for this week's implementation for Rebut Rebut Ramadan, we are going to go heavy on the marketing resources. We're going to record videos, we are going to take B-rolls, we are going to take footage of almost every single thing. We are going to document this whole thing. And I'm so excited because I'm going to be that capo. I'm going to just be that capo event organizer that says like, hey, how's everything? Is everything all right? Do you need some assistance? Okay. Yeah, all this kind of stuff, right? And that's the first thing. That's the first reiteration. Second reiteration would be actually the oh wait, actually to add on to the first one, we're going to create a DESA Instagram page or Facebook page where we will sync up and we use that as a platform to run our ads and to also run and collect all the different footages, the different media of this space. So everything space related, DESA related will be down there. Thanks, Renee, for the idea. I actually didn't thought about that. So that's that. So second thing would actually be how can we systemize the setting up and tearing down. Because it's Ramadan, I think there's a lot more emphasis on setting up. So that's something that we have to try. Right now, we are, or rather initially we did like the day before the setup. However, only one vendor showed up. So we're going to go with on the day itself, on the Saturday itself, not early in the morning, but probably 2 hours prior, they can come down and set things up because there's really not much to set up here because you are given a table, you are given a clothes rack, nothing more. And that's the second thing is how to systemize that thing, or maybe you could have an additional like event coordinator support to really assist in the setting up, or if you can do that as a pre-packaged kind of thing. But that's something for another day. We're going to tackle it one by one first. Okay, so the first one would be marketing resources, going heavy on the marketing resources and sharing them and distributing them. Second thing will be systemizing how the booths are set up and tear down. And I think the third one would be to work on our SOPs because our SOPs would really have to be refined even further. Right now, we only have vendor liability, we have what is it called? Vendor acquisition, customer acquisition, and marketing SOPs. We have to refine it a lot further moving forward, not only for us, but also for vendor communication so that we can communicate with them easily, like saying like, okay, this is what you have to do, this is what you have to do. If this situation happens, this is what you have to do. Right. In this, for let's say for this package, this is what you have to do. So those are the different factors that actually plays a part in becoming an event organizer. And I'm totally stressed out. I was stressed. In fact, Saturday, Sunday, I was super stressed. Monday to Tuesday, I was zoned out because of the intensity that actually happened. And moving forward, I think I have to learn to delegate, and eventually I really do have to delegate when there's a lot more vendors coming on board, right? And the more that this place really gets popular, then the more work that has to be done. And there's so many things that I really have to think about. And I'm just planning to use this as a platform for me to really just focus and reflect and refer back to reiterate the next step. It's just part and parcel, right? And it's just what business is really all about. But I'm grateful that it went by 1 week super fast. It felt like very long actually, but now that I think about it, it's super quick. And I really can't wait for the next round for us to refine our service as DESA a lot more so that we can prove ourselves a lot more valuable to future vendors as well. Right? Peace.